Here are a few 2-minute drawings I did. This is meant to be a draw along, so I'm drawing with Sanguine Conte and a little bit of white Conte here and there on just regular old newsprint. So I'm starting with a little piece of Conte that I have sharpened at one end like I was showing at the beginning. Working my way down the figure, I'm starting with the head. It's a good sort of unit of measure for the whole figure. And then I go to the neck and I think about the spine. The neck is a good little note to add, otherwise it can get lost. And after the spine, I'm adding in the rib cage, pelvis, and looking for the axis of the shoulders, axis of the hips. And I drop down the weight-bearing leg to the ground. So basically I have a very light framework the first time through, and then I go back up through the drawing and darken it a little bit more. So the second pass, I'm adding a little bit of value with the side of the Conte. So that's the advantage of using a little stick, is I can make value really quickly with the side of it. And since these are only 2-minute drawings, I don't really have much time to make a bunch of cross-hatching lines. The disadvantage of a little piece of Conte is that my hand is over the drawing some of the time when I'm drawing it, but since I'm holding something small, that's really the only way I can hold it, is in between you and the drawing, so apologies for that. So as I go back up, I'm starting to add in darker notes as I get more confident about where things are. So now I have a little framework for the gesture. I have all the main parts there. Now I have a little bit of time to maybe pick out a couple of details here and there. Maybe start to try and be more specific about some of the contour lines. Carve them out, especially where they're darker. Get a little bit more specific about a couple of things. So the places I'm looking for axes are at the axis of the shoulders, axis of the hip, axis of the knees, and axis at the feet. Like which foot is higher, which side of the shoulders are higher, which side of the hip is higher. And really just a couple dark notes. So these aren't finished drawings, but they're quick drawings. I don't really think of them like they're going to be finished drawings. I think of them like a gesture drawing where I hope I can get a little bit of light and dark on them. So here again, you can see the head, rib cage, and pelvis dropping down to the weight-bearing leg and the other leg. And then once I get the legs in, I'll go back up, put in the arms. So essentially, the first pass through is a very light framework for the whole drawing. So I'm using pretty simplified forms, basically an egg for the head. So if that egg for the head is 1 unit high, the egg for the rib cage is about 1.5 high. The egg for the pelvis will be about, again, 1 head egg unit high. And I'll look for the middle of the figure and then go back up, try and decide a little bit more specifically about maybe the direction of the head, put the arms on, try and get a little bit of light and dark because it helps me see the form. Then carve out a couple of more specific things, maybe get my contour lines in a little bit there, try and get the sides of the leg a little different from each other, hopefully. Back up to the top. Now I'm really just picking out a couple of things, try and make her, the model has dark hair, so I'm putting in some darks. Just trying to get the gesture and a basic, really like almost 2 value light and dark. So another advantage of having them be horizontal like this is I can take the proportions, since these all happen to be standing poses, I can kind of carry the proportions from the previous drawing over to the next one. So the drawing I just did helps me with the next drawing I'm doing. So same process again, head, neck, rib cage, axis of the shoulders, pelvis, axis of the pelvis, all tied together by the spine. So that first line I made from the head down is like a light line, roughly indicating what the spine's doing, which is super important because it ties together those main masses of the head, rib cage, and pelvis. And if you think about biological priority as drawing priority, then you definitely want to leave the head on and the rib cage and pelvis as well. So now I'm dropping a little bit of valued in, meaning basically trying to put where the model's in shadow. I have a pretty blunt instrument I'm drawing with, so I'm just trying to get it down pretty quickly, not too much time to fuss over things. I just want a little light and dark on there so I can see where the light is coming from. Then back up, trying to be a little bit more specific here and there, try and make her arms a little more specific. They're a little bit basic the way I had them blocked in the first time. So each time I go back, I'm not going back over the lines I put down the first time. I'm trying to correct as I go and get a little bit closer to what I'm seeing. So I added a little bit of white, which is a little hard to see on this, but it's there. Now, starting another one. So these are all 2-minute drawings. Head, neck, spine. Deciding where the rib cage is, pelvis, weight-bearing leg. Really, I'm following the weight all the way down from the top of the head to the bottom of the weight-bearing leg as kind of the foundation for the gesture, and then add the other leg. You can see the other leg's much more curved, so the weight's on that back leg. So even though I don't see it, it's the first leg I'm drawing because since it holds up the model, it's a really vital thing to understand to get the gesture down. So sometimes even when the leg is behind and I only see it in a couple places, like in this pose, I will pretty much indicate where it's going anyway. So now making sure I get the feet on there. Coming back up, adding a couple notes, adding a hair in so I can tell which way the head is facing, trying to get the arms in. So even though the arms were a big part of the gesture, I still add them in a little bit later. And trying to indicate where the head's facing with just a couple notes. On a 2-minute drawing, I might just barely have time to indicate which way the head is going. So I'm trying to get in the whole figure, which is a good habit to get in, to try and get the whole figure down, because you want to train yourself to see the whole thing and not train yourself to be a specialist who only draws the head and torso, or torso and pelvis, because you want your figure drawings to be able to build up into something larger than studies. So now last one, same process, head, neck, really just making these faint fluid lines to indicate to myself where things are going, following the weight all the way down from the top of the head to the foot that the weight is on. So coming back up and adding in the arms and going back down to the pelvis, trying to get a little more specific here and there. Anyway, I just wanted to do a real-time draw along with some 2-minute drawings just to show you how I'm building it up in actual time, since I tend to use a lot of time lapse on these things. It looks like I left the other leg off a lot longer than usual. See, I'm looking at which leg is higher. The one on the left is higher than the one on the right. Trying to add a little bit of value. Value as in light and dark, not a monetary value. So I hope this draw along was useful for you. I meant it primarily for my students, um, but I think it's useful to see someone build up a drawing in a logical way and sort out the complicated problem of drawing another human with a little piece of Conte, which is really pretty good stuff. You can almost use it like a brush. So I hope that was useful for you.